today we are demonstrating how to grid with geometry, math and art. This is for your emulation painting. What you need to do your gridding or to enlarge your picture onto your canvas, you need a colored print of the section of your famous painting that you cropped out and made smaller. And you also need a black and white copy. And you need a straight edge. Sometimes we have what's called a carpenter's square, but what we'll have for you will be pieces of railboard that are cut at 90-degree angles. So you'll have a nice 90-degree angle to use in this project. You'll also need your board that has a gesso on it. Some classes have white, some classes have a light pastel color. You'll also need a ruler that's at least 22 inches long. And you'll need a good paper cutter. Your first step, I don't know if you want to come a little closer, Brooke, so you can see my lovely assistant. What we need to do is cut this white edge all the way off, but we have to do it very carefully with the paper cutter. I want to just take that white edge off, and I want to make sure it's very straight. So lifting up the paper cutter, please be very careful. Don't put your fingers under there. Make sure nobody's around you when you're using it. Line up the edge of your paper on the grid line of the paper cutter. Make sure it stays 90 degrees and make sure start and hold it tightly and start bringing the blade down and make sure it's going to hit where you want. And it looks like when I'm doing that, then I need to bring it over a little more. So I'm going to put the blade back up, scoot it over a little bit more. Make sure I'm still lined up. Oops. And hold it really still. Don't let it slide on you like I just did. Hold it nice and tight against the edge. And we'll do that on all sides. Once you're done, it will look like this one. So we have it cropped all the way down, and here's your colored one. Your colored one, we want you to protect it. So you will keep your colored one, actually both of them, you will keep in a plastic sleeve so that we don't get paint on them. So right away, let's go ahead and protect it. Slide it in the plastic sleeve. This is a painting by George O'Keeffe, I think, right? Miss Malden? A close-up of that. Okay, then the next thing that we're going to do is enlarge this image onto this board. You want to check to make sure whenever you're gridding that your paper or what you're gridding is in proportion with your canvas. Now we have set that when we asked you to do the 4:3 ratio, we already knew, we had done the math that will make this in proportion, but check anyway, make sure it's pretty close. How you do that is you put the paper down in the corner of the board, and this is a normal geometry thing you may have learned, but if you run the ruler through the corner of one piece of paper and on up to the bigger one, it should come right to the corner. This one doesn't quite, but for our purposes, it's close enough, so it's almost in proportion. Then, take our print, our black and white print, and we're going to fold it into a grid. Fold it, and then crease it really well. I'll move this so you can see it a little bit better. Crease it really well. Make sure you folded it very carefully along the edges. Open it back up. Fold it again. Doing a nice crease. Notice I have 4 grid lines. I want to have 16. So using math, if I want to have 16, how many squares am I going to have along the top and side of each one? Liz, do you know the answer to that? If I want 16 squares, how many would I have along the top and the bottom? Do you know? Putting you on the spot, huh? 4 times 4, right? Is 16, so I'll have 4 along the top, and then I also want 4 along the side. See, now you can tell your parents that it's good to take art because you learn math and art. But you learn it the fun way. So I'm almost there, but I'm being very careful when I'm folding it to bring the edge up all the way into the fold. And then I'm gonna double back just so I can make sure I can really see my grid lines later. You'll see why you want to do that when you start drawing it. But for this video, we're just showing you how to put the grid on. I think we'll do another video about how to draw from the grid. Don't you think, Miss Malden?
Yes.
Okay, so now I want this grid onto this gessoed board. And of course, it's going to be bigger once I put it in. Here's some more geometry for you. How do you find the midpoint of a rectangle or a square in geometry without measuring? Of course I could measure. So I could measure and get what's half. This would be an interesting one because it's at 10.5. So what's half of 10.5 would be 5 1/4. And you can see that comes right there. So I could measure it, and then I could measure this, 16, and take half and put it at 8 and do my marks with math, with numbers. But we're going to do it with just shapes and geometry. So to find the center, I can also do a diagonal from corner to corner, and that will come right to the center. I'll just draw it on here so you can see. You don't need to do this step. I'm just going to show you so you'll see why we're doing it this way. Drawing from corner to corner finds my midpoint on this piece of paper. So I want to find my midpoint on my canvas. I line up my ruler very carefully, and I do this lightly, mas clara. I think I said Spanish right. Very lightly.
I don't know lightly.
Mas oscura is darker, mas clara, something like that. Very lightly, because once I start painting, I don't want to be able to see my grid lines. If I don't have a ruler, I can also use this because we will have these cut to a straight edge for you. So once I have this, it's just like here, but I've made it bigger. Now I need to draw these lines onto my gridded board. This is where I need to have a right angle. Don't use the ruler, it'll mess up. Use this pretend ruler. I take the ruler, I know I already told you this is 90 degrees. I'll line my 90-degree corner up so that it is right along the edge, and then I put this edge through my center. And I very lightly draw this way. So now if you look at this paper, I've just drawn this line right here. Now I'm going to draw this line. Take the ruler, take the pretend ruler with the 90-degree edge. What is really important here is not just drawing this line, but making sure this edge is lined up with your gessoed board very lightly. So I have now 4 big rectangles. I need to put these little ones in, so I'll have 16. What I want to do then, I'll show you one here again, even though you don't have to do it on here, so you'll see what I'm doing. If I draw a diagonal right here, it's just like this square right here. If I draw a diagonal right here, I will find the center here, just like I found the center here. So let's draw that diagonal. Very lightly. Now, in theory, I only need to draw that one, and I'll show you why. Because look here at the paper again. If I have this, and I use my 90 degrees again, and I draw this line, it'll intersect here, and I'll be able to draw this line, which will intersect here. I'll be able to draw this line. So let's do that and see how that works. Taking my 90-degree edge again, making sure it's lined up along the side of the canvas. Very lightly draw my intersecting line through here, which should give me the center of this one now. So I should be able to line up my ruler on the top here. You can see, draw it very lightly through here. I'm almost there. If you have drawn any of your lines without this 90 degrees, this whole grid will get off. It won't be like you want. And now these should line up pretty well here. Now if they don't exactly, for our purposes, just a little bit off will be okay, but I think we're pretty good. We got them all. So now I have 16 rectangles on this board, 16 rectangles on my paper. So when I start to draw, I'll probably number. I might put a number here so I keep track. And I would put in this rectangle what I see in this rectangle, only bigger, just like we did with our duplication exercises. It's really the same thing, where you copy what's in one rectangle to another. And we'll show it another drawing demo of that. Here's everything you need. We'll be ready to start drawing onto this gesso now. And that's how you grid with geometry.